Tonight, states are stepping up to protect their residents' Second Amendment rights from what they see as the long arm of Washington. Under a new state law starting next month, any gun made in Montana, sold to a Montana resident, and remaining in that state will be exempt from federal control. Bill Tucker has our report.
There are few states where the right to keep and bear arms is more cherished than the state of Montana. Governor Schweitzer easily won his bid for re-election last year as he underscored his passion for the Second Amendment in his campaign commercial. So it should be no surprise that Montana was the first state to stand and legislatively challenge the federal government's reach when it comes to guns.
Under the Montana Firearms Freedom Act, the gun must be made in Montana and stay in Montana and be made by a non-federally licensed gun maker. None of the guns that you see here would be protected under that law.
That's because those guns cross or have crossed state lines. But when it comes to a gun made in the state that stays in the state,
the Commerce Clause does not apply. It's just like a radish. If you grow a radish in Montana, you sell the radish in Montana, and you eat that radish in Montana, do you believe the federal government would come out here with ATF or somebody else and challenge us all the way to the Supreme Court? I doubt it. So whether you're talking about a gun or a radish, the Commerce Clause should not apply.
Montana is not alone in its endeavor. The state of Tennessee passed a similar law in June, and the stage for a battle with the federal government has been set. The Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms has already sent letters to federally licensed gun makers in those states warning that the ATF sees the law as meaningless. Quote, the act purports to exempt personal firearms, firearms accessories, and ammunition manufactured in the state and remain in the state from most federal firearm laws and regulations. However, federal law supersedes the act, and all provisions of the Gun Control Act and the National Firearms Act continue to apply. Some constitutional lawyers suspect the Supreme Court would side with the ATF, noting prior rulings have expanded interstate commerce authority and federal law does in fact take precedent. The reaction from the ATF was anticipated, says one of the writers of the bill, who freely admits the law is meant to be a finger in the eye of the federal government.
That's the purpose of the Montana Firearms Freedom Act, to be able to mount that challenge to Congress, to be able to regulate everything under the sun under the guise of regulating interstate commerce.
And he has a strong ally in the governor, who it would seem might be at odds with the president, who is very pro-gun control, who is also a fellow Democrat.
But when the federal government comes in and says, we want to be your daddy, we want to tell you how to live your life, that's where we draw the line and say, whoa, not in Montana.
According to the Montana Shooting Sports Association, 95% of homes contain a firearm in Montana. And the feeling among many there is that the thing to fear the most is not a person with a gun, but a government that would take that gun away. Bill Tucker, CNN, Missoula, Montana.
And in a legal twist, the groups which helped write and pass the Montana Firearms Freedom Act plan to preempt federal challenges by testing the law in court themselves. They want to make sure the law is constitutionally defensible against any future lawsuits from Washington.